Alright, well, I've decided to work on the head unit again. I'm still gonna take care of these. I'm still gonna wait for my big lathe so I can modify these parts here to put in modern bearings. So just to recap what's going on with that, this had a big bushing in it, and I'm going to get a needle bearing that's going to fit in there for this. It's going to be a big improvement, I think, on this side. And then on this side, of course, we have the multi-part bearing that's been giving me fits, and I've now decided that I'm going to put it in an angular contact ball bearing in here. And what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to end up changing the, I'm going to turn down the part of the shaft that the cone pulley's on, that this presses onto a little bit to accommodate the standard bearing size. And then the OD of that bearing is going to be a little small for this, so I'm going to make a sleeve that's going to go in here to make up for that. That's what I've decided I'm going to do. I toyed with the idea of running this. This actually sounds kind of decent, actually. But once you put the pulley in there and it's mounted in here, that noise just gets real loud. So I can imagine running at speed, it's going to be driving me crazy. So, but in the meantime, I figured I'd do something else on this. I've got my bearing now for this tensioner. This is all, as you recall, I put this all back together, and I've got my thrust bearing in there, and I picked up a cotter pin. So now I can put this in here. So this gear right here, or these cogs I should say, they actually engage a tooth on this metal ring right here. So the idea is that if you loosen the nut that goes on the bottom here a little bit, you can actually rotate this to preload the tension on this arm, and then you push it back down so it locks in. So this basically is going to sit like this, like that. This goes here. I haven't been able to figure out what the deal is with this. I don't know what the purpose of this spring-loaded arm is right here. I'll show you a close-up of that. So I'm talking about this thing right here. This is spring-loaded, and there doesn't appear to be anything to lock it in this position or anything. So I just don't know what this does. When this is operating, this tension is going to be pushing this way onto the belt, keeping the tension. And then if it swings out this way too far, the back of this will hit this. But I don't understand what purpose there is to have this spring loaded. I don't know if this is almost like a little shock absorber when this bounces back. Originally I thought that this somehow had some sort of a locking feature that somehow would lock this arm, well, quite frankly, like that. The thought being that if it locked the arm in that position, that there'd be no tension on the belt. This is how you would change the belt. The belt would slip right off the top here. The operator would put a new belt on and then disengage the lock and let this go back. But that doesn't seem to be what's going on here at all. Matter of fact, if I put this over this like this, I guess it would kind of do that. But I mean, I just don't think that that was the intent of what this does. So, anyways, enough about that. Alright, so now I've got a put this torsion spring in. Quick, remember where the hole is in this thing. I'll take this off here, make my life a little easier. Alright, so the hole's about here. Well, that's shorter than that side. I wonder if that broke off. Looks like it may have. I wonder if that's going to even work now. Well, how far does that stick into that hole? It still seems to stick in far enough. I'll put the long end going down inside here where I can't see it. Talk about your needle in the haystack. Well, as luck would have it, I could look down through this hole and actually see that it's in the hole. Alright. As Carl the groundskeeper would say, it's in the hole. It's in the hole. Get that reference? Anybody? Oh, this ought to be good for a finger pinching good time. Alright, so apparently all I need to do is oh, I'll tell you what that arm right there does for you. That does a good job of keeping this from coming out this. Well, wait a minute, I'm turning it the wrong way. That's putting tension in the wrong direction. I gotta turn it the other way. I want it to do this. There we go. I want it to be going in. Wow. That's gonna be a pain in the butt to put this together. Now I know why you're not supposed to take this apart. Alright, rethink this. Do I need to even have this on here to put this together? No. I could just do this. Hey, you know what I could use? A big C-clamp. Well, none of my C-clamps are going to be large enough. I could grab the edge of this here and try and squeeze it, but then the C-clamp will be at an angle and it's liable to want to slip off. So I need something that'll squeeze between the end of the threaded rod here and this cap. So I'm going to try this bar clamp I've got. I don't know if this is even going to work, but give it a shot. Not sure why, but that's stuck. It doesn't want to go in any further. There we go. Alright, I think I've got it compressed enough. Now I think I need to see if I can't turn this rod to line the hole up. Which I should have gotten some channel locks. Now turning this should not wind the torsion spring because the rod is not capped to the torsion spring. The cap is. Alright, now I can see I've got the hole lined up and I can see that I've got to compress this even further. Of course it wants to turn. I don't think this cotter pin's going to do the trick. Well, I don't know. Oh, it's through. Well, if this fails, I'll tell you right now, it means that this should be a steel pin in here and not just a cotter pin. Although the piece that fell out of here looked like the remnants of a cotter pin, so that's why I went with a cotter pin. Alright, so now, obviously if I put this in here like this, it does really nothing. So what I need to do now is I need to actually put a wrench on here and wind this to put tension on that torsion spring. So I need to preload this. How much tension? I don't know. I might not. I'm going to put any on here now, or maybe I'll wait until I have a belt on here. I would like to see whether or not my theory about how this works pans out. So let me go grab a wrench. Okay, so I think the way to handle this is I push this up a little bit so that those teeth aren't able to engage that tang that keeps it locked. And then turn this to load the torsion spring. Oh, what the heck's going on here? Oh, I see. Move down on me. Alright, so let's say just for kicks that that is enough. So now what I need to do is get this to move down and lock onto the tab. Oh, popped off. Okay. So obviously I've got to have a nut on there, and once I know that it's engaged, I've got to tighten the nut down so it locks it in. It's obviously too high right here because this is actually almost, this right here is almost rubbing the other side of this. This might work. Alright, let me find the nut. Nuts! There it is. Doesn't seem like much. And the other thing is, this looks like maybe that's supposed to be lubricated. As right now, this seems like it's not coming back as freely as it wants to. And where it seems to be rubbing actually is where this fits down inside of here. Now I might have some paint on there. Maybe that's not supposed to be a painted surface, although I thought I didn't paint that. The other thing I could do is I could put a little bit of oil on there. I mean, it's definitely, it's going back. I just don't know, and I probably won't know until I actually get a belt on here whether or not this is anywhere near enough belt tension. Doesn't seem like much tension on there at all. If I dare, I should probably go around one more turn. I was worried about how this doesn't really clear in here very well, but I realize now that when the belt's on here, this is probably going to be riding out here further anyways, and it does clear once you tighten that down. Try one more turn. Another reason why this seems like it should be a pin and not like a spring pin and not a cotter pin. Alright, there we go. Now that'll be out of my way. I need to put, maybe if I put this on its side so I can tap the bottom of that bolt to move that shaft up. Let's get my flashlight handy here so I can see when I've got that in the groove. Alright, so I better have this wrench on here before I tap this out. Ow! It's funny that doesn't, I don't know why that didn't just shoot right back when my wrench just slipped off. I'm lucky it didn't, but it didn't. Alright, that seems like more tension on there now. Look at that. Pull that out, it doesn't even go. This damn thing ain't working right. Not at all. Guess it could just be friction just rubbing on that. Like everything else on this thing, there's nothing about that point that says that's obvious about like lubrication. There it is. That's it. As soon as this oil worked its way in there. Should have realized that that was his pivot point. Needed some kind of lubrication on there. Banging up my paint job doing that. Oh, no, actually I'm not. When I'm, yeah, the end of the bottom edge of this arm where you're not going to see it. So now that's feels good to me. That really feels good. This, something's rubbing. Where is that rubbing? This actually, right here, this is all getting marred up right here because it's rubbing the underside of this. I have to believe that since it doesn't rub until it gets in about that far, that by design This is supposed to be sitting out here further when it's running. Makes sense. It's not bad. So well, that turned into a bigger project than I thought it would be. So what do I want to do with these ends of this cotter pin? I think I'm going to bend them back over this way, just so they're not going to be in any proximity to where the belt's going to be coming across here. Alright. Yeah, I mean, if I had thought of it initially, I probably would have liked to have used grease on this, but this was such a bear to put together, I really don't want to take it apart again for that. So if something goes wrong and I have to take it apart, then I'll put grease on it when I put it back together. I remember when I took this all apart, that was all bone dry and rusty, all that. But that hadn't been used. They hadn't been using, previous owners hadn't been using that tensioner in a while, because this was, I don't know if you recall, but this was kind of, it was all really hell inside there. I don't want to put too much in there because it's just going to eventually start dripping out of the bottom of this here and making a mess.